Okay, members, it's time for questions to the Executive Office. We're going to start with a list of questions. Question number 7 has been withdrawn. So I call Cathal Boylan.
Question number 1, please.
Minister.
Deputy Speaker, victims and survivors of historical institutional abuse have endured unimaginable pain and suffering over many years. We recognise the importance of fulfilling the final recommendation of the Historical Institutional Abuse Inquiry report to honour those who suffered, including those who did not live to see justice or acknowledgement. Following extensive engagement with victims and survivors, we are pleased to confirm that agreement has been reached to place a memorial plaque in the Great Hall of Parliament buildings. We have considered the views expressed by victims and survivors and have agreed the final wording of the plaque. The Speaker has confirmed that the Assembly Commission are content with the final wording, and officials are working closely with the Speaker's office to take the final steps. We wish to thank the Speaker for his continued support in helping us deliver this important inquiry recommendation. The memorial will ensure the victims and survivors are permanently and respectfully remembered and acknowledged.
Thank you. I call Cathal Boylan for supplementary.
I could thank the Deputy First Minister for her answer, but could I ask, can she advise when the memorial plaque will be unveiled?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm pleased to say that as it is in its final stages, it's just a matter of ensuring that the final plaque is prepared, and in terms of the installation of that. So the First Minister and myself hope to be in the position to formally have the plaque up early in the new year.
Thank you. I call Paula Bradshaw for supplementary.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and that's good news. Thank you, Deputy First Minister, for that update on the plaque. I'm just wondering around the wider programme of memorialisation that was recommended in the inquiry report, and if you could advise what work's going on between the victims and survivors groups and the Arts Council. Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you. Thank the member for her question. As the member is aware, we have included the Arts Council to try to take this forward. This was a recommendation, as you know, from the Hart report, and it's been one that's been outstanding for such a long period of time because of the need, I think, to try to maximise as much consensus as possible on what is a very sensitive issue, but what is an incredibly important issue to victims right across. We've always been acutely aware that victims and survivors do not all share the same view on every matter, and therefore we tried to work very carefully with them on this issue, and I'm really pleased that we've been able to find a way through what has been a very challenging issue to find a way through in the last number of years. I have no doubt that there will be the same challenges in terms of local memorialisation, but it is a process that we want to be victim-centred. It has to be a process which is trauma-informed as well in terms of working with people. So I do feel that will take time, working with the Arts Council and potentially with local councils as well. It may be the case that there are local groups that will want to see something a bit different within their local area, and I do think that we need to have the flexibility to take that into account. So once we've got this completed, that work will continue then at pace to try to ensure that we have that commitment to local memorialisation fulfilled as well.
Thank you. I call Pam Cameron for supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the Deputy First Minister for her answers so far. Can I ask the Deputy First Minister what more can be done to support those under the range of legacy schemes, including HIA, but also the victims' pensions process, because many of whom are facing difficulty getting their situation understood and recognised?
Minister.
Thank you. I thank the member for her important question. These schemes are so meaningful to so many. They are long overdue, and it is that recognition of a wrong that has been done in the past. Very often a wrong that was done by none of us around this place today, and indeed actually very few people, if any, who would be within those institutions or organisations, but it was a wrong that was done, and that needs to be acknowledged and needs to be addressed. And it's not just the HIA scheme that we have. We're about to commence our mother and baby home redress scheme. We also have our severely injured pension scheme. And I talk to those that have been going through that process. It can be a very re-traumatising process. It can be a very frustrating process. Just over the last week, I was speaking to those who have been putting in applications on the basis of post-traumatic stress disorder, particularly those who served in our armed forces and in the RUC. You know, an incredible thing in terms of stepping forward in the most difficult of circumstances. People who saw their friends and their colleagues and family members killed in very difficult circumstances, and they have suffered psychological injury. Those experts connect that directly to what they experienced, but they are not able at the moment too often to get help from that scheme. I do believe that that's something that needs to be addressed. The nature of mental health issues and how those come about, and our understanding of that has evolved so significantly, and I don't believe at the moment that scheme does take that into account, but that doesn't mean that people shouldn't get that help and support, and I of course would urge the panel to use maximum flexibility that reflects the reality of how mental health, ill health can happen in terms of those traumatic events.
Cultural Burnley.
Question 2.
Thank you. We recognise that sport plays a vital role in bringing people and communities together, and welcome the report and its call for a series of reforms to ensure fairness and transparency in sport. It is encouraging that the Commission has recommended the establishment of an oversight panel to support the effective implementation of the recommendations. We also welcome the Commission will continue to engage with stakeholders on this important matter. We look forward to seeing the outworkings of the report.
Cultural Burnley for supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for her answer. Does the Minister agree with me that it is long past the time that Northern Ireland sports men and women should be able to compete internationally under their national flag by right?
Thank you. I thank the member for her important question, because some of the important issues that have been highlighted within this case are common, actually, I think, in too many other places as well. Of course, I welcome the fact that this report has now been shared. I welcome the commitment of action, and I understand that there is a statement in the House tomorrow from the Minister of the Economy, of the Communities, in relation to this important issue. But you're absolutely right. Too many sports are in a situation where you cannot compete and you don't have the choice to compete under your national flag and as Northern Ireland, and that needs to be addressed. I've worked with many different sports. It's a mixed picture depending on what the sport is, but I do believe that it should be an enshrined right of this place that you have the ability, should it be to box, should it be in athletics, should it be in fishing, to actually do so for your country, Northern Ireland, and under the flag of your country. And that is something that I would like to see addressed, not just here across the UK, but indeed by those international sporting bodies and organisations as well.
Thank you. I call Kate Nicholl.
Question 3, please.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Miss Deputy Speaker, and with your permission, I will answer questions 3 and 7 together. The Office of AI and Digital, under the leadership of Professor Helen McCarthy, is preparing a comprehensive strategy for the ethical adoption of AI in the public sector. This is a collaborative effort drawing on expertise from across government, industry and academia. The scoping phase of this work is now complete. It incorporated input from a diverse group of stakeholders, which has been instrumental in shaping the key pillars of the strategy. To support this drafting phase, the Office has set up 2 key groups: an external AI advisory panel made up of industry leaders, including the AI Collaboration Centre and local universities, and a government AI network which brings together representatives of all 9 departments. Efforts are currently underway to consolidate feedback from the advisory panel and from the government AI network, and that it will reconvene in December to review and discuss the early draft of the strategy. Taking an iterative approach will help ensure that the strategy is robust, inclusive and future-proofed. At the heart of the strategy is a firm commitment to the ethical and responsible use of AI embedded within the governance pillar. The governance pillar is grounded in the principles of transparency, respect and fairness, ensuring AI is deployed ethically and responsibly across executive departments. By embedding these principles, we are reinforcing our commitment to inclusive governance and ensuring AI solutions are developed and used in ways that are morally responsible, socially beneficial and aligned with human values.
Thank you. Because question 7 has withdrawn, it can't be grouped, so it's just question 3, supplementary. Kate Nicholl.
Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Deputy First Minister for her answer and the emphasis on responsible and ethical use of AI. I agree. Could I ask then, as a supplementary, given that Northern Ireland has the potential to be a world leader in this space, all the businesses tell us that, is the Deputy First Minister able to talk to a more specific timetable for rolling out the AI strategy, given that we need to act with speed in order to deliver that?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm not sure, because of the seamless transition from the last item of business into questions, I haven't had the updated file, so nor did I realise that question 7 had been withdrawn, so that's why I'd requested that permission. So apologies. No, you're absolutely right. We do have a timetable in terms of the phase 2, phase 3. Phase 2 is now being complete. There's a task and finish group that has been established, as I'm sure the member is aware, under CSTA, our new post with Professor Helen McCarthy, and I think she's been a real breath of fresh air, of coming in. And I think it shows the benefit, even though she is only a part-time post, but of coming in from outside of the system with that knowledge and with that experience, and indeed with that passion for this area as well, and really trying to drive through what we require in terms of that strategy. So that work is well underway. As I said, that group has been convened, and she has been engaging with a wide range of people. We've established 6 core principles, or 6 core pillars, in terms of the new AI strategy and action plan, and the aim is that will go to 2030. And those 6 areas are governance, infrastructure, data, skills, public sector transformation and citizenship, and looking at an AI hub for delivery, which then will look at the actions within that. I commend our CSTA because this is a significant amount of work, but I know that she has also relied on a range of third sector and private sector partners as well in terms of that expertise and in that support. And of course we are very grateful for that help and support that we've had with that from inside and outside the system too.
Thank you, Minister. I call Patrick Delargy for supplementary.
Príomh Ceann Comhairle, and I thank the Minister for her answers so far. Minister, one of the things which you've touched on is the fact that this is about being inclusive. And we know that with a lot of the technology strategies, it's very difficult to reach people. So can you give an outline of exactly what's being done to reach people and the most hard to reach communities, so that they can actually have an input on the strategy as well?
Okay, thank you. As the member will be aware, look, so much of what we do now is around that collaborative design and also co-production. They're 2 buzzwords and you hear them all of the time, but they are important because that is about including those who will use the strategy within the actual period and process of putting the strategies and action plans together. It is really important because there's so many different elements to this. If you speak to anybody about what they think AI is, it depends on their personal experience of that. Many people will think it's something you jump on in terms of an app on your phone and you ask them to put something together. Should it be a picture, a couple of paragraphs or some factual information? But of course it has so many other potential uses, not least in terms of in our health sector, in relation to supporting diagnostics, in relation to right across our system being able to populate fields with common information that will actually save a lot of people a lot of time. But yes, of course, in terms of then actually drafting up factual background speeches. But there's 2 key principles with that. The first must be that it has to be ethical. And the second must be that I think it's important that we still have that core human element to make sure that we are checking that, we're checking the factual aspects of that, we're checking that against bias or other issues as well. But the end users, and I think this is really important because we know there's a lot of older people who use government services. Now, many of the older people I know could buy and sell you in terms of social media and online, but we also know that there are challenges in terms of some of those digital skills right across. So it has to be an entire life cycle role, and we need to look at all of the characteristics and all of the challenges and make sure that this is fit for purpose. You're absolutely right.
Minister, I call Mark Durgan for supplementary.
We've heard a lot about the potential benefits and opportunities that will come with AI, but has there been any executive analysis of the potential impact of AI on job displacement, not just across civil service, but across the north?
Thank you. And I think that it's a big concern for many people in terms of looking at their own job and future-proofing that. And I think, realistically, AI will be able to, in all likelihood, do things in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, maybe in 1 year's time that we can't even imagine right now. I think that there is an apprehension at times around that. And I always think that we need to be careful that we're not Luddite about that. We can't be we don't want to delay in terms of being apprehensive about something that perhaps that we don't always understand, but in fact that we are looking at it conscious of the risks and the challenges that it does face, but also very acutely aware of the opportunities within that. And I would always say that it's not about simply replacing people. I think it's very much around looking at how AI and technological development can help support better efficiency, better productivity, but also then about the upskilling or reskilling of people who are working currently within jobs that perhaps could be picked up by AI and used and utilised in different ways. Because as we know, the needs of the service, the needs of the civil service in the future will be very different to what the needs of the past has been. The Head of the Civil Service has undertaken a people strategy review at the moment. A lot of work being done in relation to that to see what are the numbers in terms of fit for service right across our public sector, but also what skills are required for the future and where AI can support that. But I think the important thing around this is that it's not primarily about people losing their jobs. It's about maybe doing things better and differently in the future and reskilling or upskilling those that are in existing jobs for future jobs.
Thank you, Minister. I call Philip Brett for supplementary.
Deputy Speaker, Deputy First Minister, AI has been to the fore in the cutting-edge development within our defence space industry here in Northern Ireland that continues to grow. How can we ensure that the AI strategy aligns with that growth and that we fully benefit from the UK Defence Growth Deal, which will be worth millions of pounds here to the people of Northern Ireland?
Thank you. It's undoubtedly the case that we have a really strong, high-quality defence and aerospace industry here in Northern Ireland. We've just come off Remembrance Sunday just last weekend, and it's a time for so many to pause and to reflect on the role played by so many here in Northern Ireland in the world wars and the wars and conflicts since. But of course, importantly and in line with that is the roles played by our industries and businesses in supporting the defence industry. It is companies and things made right here in Northern Ireland that is helping keep the world safe globally. And it is unfortunate at the moment because of global conflict, because of that fear of conflict. I speak with a number of ambassadors. We get the opportunity to meet with ambassadors that come and delegations that come to Northern Ireland from across the globe. And when you speak to people from Poland, from Latvia, from a number of countries, you can see the real sense about that insecurity and the concerns about security. They are investing in defence, very fundamentally because they see investing in defence as the best way to secure peace for their region, and that is something that our companies can absolutely play a role in. He is right, the initiative by the UK government in terms of the support of the defence industry is UK-wide. We absolutely must make sure that Northern Ireland can benefit from that, and there are a number of really strong areas, not least in aerospace and defence, but also in cyber security. That's a big strength that we have. And actually, I think in terms of the conflicts of the future, it'll be as much about attacks in terms of our networks and cyber attacks and on our electricity systems, etc., as it will be in terms of that sort of street-by-street type fighting that has traditionally been informed, unfortunately, that part of war. So, I think that is something for us to be aware of as part of our defence strategy, and I look forward to working with ADS, working with you as chair of the committee, and working with others to make sure that Northern Ireland can benefit fully from that fund.
I call Justin McNulty.
Mr. Carr.
Thank you. The redevelopment of Casement Park remains an executive flagship capital project for sport in Northern Ireland.
Deputy First Minister, after years of delay, people are fed up with warm words with no commitments on Casement Park. Has a paper finally been brought to the executive table, and will funding be secured, and will you commit to ensuring delivery is no longer held hostage to party disagreements at your executive table?
Minister.
Thank you. I thank the member for his question. The holding up of Casement Park wasn't and was never a political issue. The funding for Casement Park was secured as part of a multi-sports package. That funding remains on the table of circa £62 million. The member will be fully aware of the financial pressures facing this executive, both in terms of revenue and capital. That funding remains on the table, and as indicated, it remains an executive flagship capital programme.
I call Arlea Flynn for a supplementary.
Concollia, does the Deputy First Minister agree that, as she outlined, the Casement Park is indeed an executive commitment, that it remains a priority commitment?
Thank you. I can confirm that it remains an executive flagship capital project. It was part of that investment strategy. It is referenced in the programme for government. The challenge in all of this is because of the cost of that project now. But as we've said many times before, the commitment to that £60-odd million by the Northern Ireland Executive remains. We know that that is not sufficient against the plans that the GAA have. I understand that the GAA are not willing at this point to put any additional money from their perspective into the project. But then that will leave a significant shortfall in relation to the aspiration and cost versus what is on the table. That is a challenge for people to look at, including the GAA, and I look forward to seeing what the GAA proposals are in relation to that.
Call David Honeyford.
Casement is now critical. Every week of delay risks losing that once-in-a-generation opportunity. But we also have the potential to host the Women's World Cup in 2035, the Cricket T20 in 2030, and the Football Fund still has £50 million shortfall. So sport urgently needs strategic direction and investment. Can I ask the Deputy First Minister where the cross-departmental leadership is to attract and deliver the long-term funding that we need to finally deliver Casement Park, to fully fund the Football Fund and make sure that Northern Ireland doesn't miss out on international events?
Thank you. I thank the member for his question. I know that he has been lobbying and speaking much on the GAA issue. But again, I would reiterate that the project was not delayed by the Northern Ireland Executive. It was not delayed because of political disagreement. It was not delayed because of the DUP. There were lots of local issues in relation to planning, and the costs of the project have increased significantly, leaving I think many people would assess to be well in excess of £100 million of a shortfall on that project. I see the member is shaking his head. If that is incorrect, then that needs to be articulated, but that is my understanding of it. The Executive does not have £100 million sitting about for this specific project, as he is aware. Look, there are many, many pressures within the system. We're currently looking at our investment strategy for Northern Ireland. It's a matter that's coming up later in these questions. But to be very clear, the vast majority of any capital funding available in all likelihood over the next 10 to 20 years is already fully committed against a range of projects. And we have been actively looking then to see how can we increase the amount of capital available because of big issues, for example, within NI Water, which is now holding back in terms of housing, in terms of economic development. These are big challenges, and it's something that, of course, that the Executive needs to look at. In the case of this project, there is a significant capital shortfall. That's a reality. It's not a political posturing. It is not about people being difficult about it. It's just a reality, and there is not a solution to that issue at this stage.
Call Harry Harvey for supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Deputy First Minister for her answers thus far. Given the huge financial pressures faced by the Executive, including on capital, can the DFM outline the challenging environment for any additional expenditure? Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it is a very timely question because we are looking into the budget event by the Chancellor at the end of this month, and I have to say that there is very little space for optimism that we will be getting any additional money, either revenue or capital. Of course, if we get that, that would be very welcome. But look, there are huge challenges. I don't need to say this to anybody around this place. When you know in your own constituency in terms of what needs to be done, should it come from potholes on roads to the need for new roads in terms of our schools and the promises that have been made. You know, the fact that you can go into a school and you can see the maintenance that is required and the backlog for that. I go around Lagan Valley and I see that day in and day out in terms of the needs for capital investment and infrastructure right throughout. So these are very difficult things that we need to look at. We have tasked SIB, the First Minister and myself, to look at the options around capital funds and what we can do, particularly in terms of NI Water and the requirement for infrastructure where that is impacting. But it's not just, as we've said, in terms of the building of houses. It's not just about holding back now economic development, but it is contributing to issues such as the situation with Lough Neagh. And we can't avoid that NI Water is a significant contributor to that, and it needs to be addressed by that investment. So those are all things that we are really trying to tackle at the moment. But let me make, let's all be incredibly clear about this. There is not enough capital in the system to do what it is that we need to do and to support our core public services. So the idea of simply just finding huge amounts and hundreds of millions of pounds, unfortunately, is not realistic. So it is a challenge to which there is no answer for at the moment.
Call Matthew O'Toole.
Thank you. The investment strategy remains under consideration. I knew it was coming up very shortly, didn't realise it was the next question, but we hope to be able to bring to the executive in the near future. The member may recall that Junior Minister Bunting provided a detailed update on the investment strategy in this chamber on the 14th of October in response to an opposition motion. And although an immense amount of work has already gone into shaping the strategy, there are still some key considerations to be worked through. However, we are confident that the substantial work that has already been completed, together with progress on the Enabling Action Plan, sets a clear direction. We know what needs to be done, and we are committed to doing it, and we are determined to get this right. Once finalised, the timeline for approval and publication will then be a matter for the executive.
Call Matthew O'Toole for supplementary.
Thank you, Deputy First Minister. Almost exactly 1 year ago, you said these words: "We are considering the draft investment strategy, after which we hope to be in a position to bring it to the executive." That was a year ago. In the meantime, as you have just said, road development, including the A5, has languished. No investment in NI Water, no plan to invest in it. Casement Park lies unbuilt. Social housing lies unprogressed. First Minister, are you seriously telling us that after a year there has been literally no progress in delivering the investment strategy? And Deputy First Minister, private meetings do not count. When will it be published?
Thank you, and thank the member for his questions. The member is well aware none of those things are impacted by the long-term investment strategy, which sets the overarching framework. Because you know what? The executive and everyone in this place knows that we need to fix roads. We know we need new roads. We know we need to fix schools. We know we need new build schools. We need more physical SEN provision. We know what the commitments are in terms of flagship projects and outstanding issues. The AFI will not be impacted by the ISNI being there or not being there. So I think we do need to be honest with the public. We need to be clear with the public. The real challenge that we face is actually that the amount of capital that is projected to be available over the course, as I've said, of the next 10 to 15 to 20 years has already almost been entirely committed by previous agreements and commitments on those flagship projects, on the roads programme, on the schools programme, quite frankly. And as the Education Minister has said in this place before, if we were to do the capital for all of the schools that have been promised to be done, that would eat up all of the education capital programme for the next 20 plus years. And that's the reality of what we are facing. Now, we also need to acknowledge that there's been significant changes from this time last year with the AFI judgment. And the climate change legislation potentially having a significant impact in relation to big public sector capital projects. That is something that we need to take into account and something that we are actively looking at the moment. So work is ongoing, but there's been a number of key issues that we are currently considering and trying to bring forward something that's actually going to have a meaningful difference, as opposed to a document simply for a document's sake.
Sinead Annis for supplement.
Margaret. Minister, it's evident that the Long Kesh site has immense social and economic potential that will benefit communities, not just in Lisburn but right across beyond Lisburn. So does the Deputy First Minister agree with me that now is the time to finally move forward with the regeneration of Long Kesh?
Thank you. I thank the member for her question. And look, this has been a source of real frustration for me. I'm a representative of Lagan Valley and speaking personally and in that capacity. I don't agree with the Sinn Féin position that nothing can happen on that site until they get and you get your way in relation to the listed buildings. I think the listed buildings are a very sensitive issue. There's the potential for a huge amount of hurt, depending on what happens there, particularly for victims and survivors. But the then Deputy First Minister Martin McGuinness made clear that nothing or very little could happen on that site in terms of economic development unless there was an agreement on those listed buildings. I would appeal to Sinn Féin, I would appeal to my colleague in this office to lift that restriction, to allow that economic potential on a main Belfast to Dublin corridor to go ahead while discussions continue in terms of dealing with those difficult issues and legacy issues from the past. That is such a key site. You can see all kinds of businesses and different economic development that would be interested in going there, given its key strategic site, the importance to my constituency of Lagan Valley. So again, I would reiterate, I would appeal to lift that condition on that economic development, allow that economic development to go ahead and unleash the incredible potential of the Maze Long Kesh site, not just for Lagan Valley, but for the entire of Northern Ireland.
Time's up. That ends the period for listed questions. We'll now move on to 15 minutes of topical questions. Topical questions 5 and 7 have been withdrawn. I call Matthew O'Toole.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Deputy First Minister, I'm sure you'll agree with me that political leaders in word and deed have a duty to embody empathy and reconciliation in this shared society. I take you at your word that your priority is attending remembrance services tomorrow. I will be here laying a wreath on behalf of the SDLP because I recognise how important it is, not only but particularly to the unionist community. To that end, can I ask why, when an inauguration of a president who is the president of many people in this society is taking place, not one of your party's more than 150 elected representatives is able to attend that event?
Thank you. I thank the member for his question. The inauguration event commences at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November, and he, as he's mentioned, is acutely aware of the importance of that date. It is an unfortunate clash. I've outlined in my statement the reasons why I cannot attend. I will be here with him, hopefully not only attending that service of sombre reflection and remembrance, but of course taking part in that act of remembrance as well. Of course, who the party decides to send is a matter, of course, for the party. I'm standing here as Deputy First Minister, but I would advise him that no matter whether you're a councillor or an MP or an MLA, this is a very, very significant date. And I know some commentators have said a very significant date for unionists. I actually think it's a very significant date and should be a very significant date for everyone across Northern Ireland, given the immense sacrifice of so many from Northern Ireland, this part of the UK, this part of the island, and of course the sacrifice of those from the Republic of Ireland as well.
Matthew for supplementary.
Deputy First Minister, you will never find me or my party trivialising the importance of Remembrance and Remembrance Day for so many people in the society and indeed on this island. But it is the case that many people feel that your party, which is the lead party in unionism, is now embarked on a journey, perhaps not one by design, but you are embarked on a journey, not just for people in Northern Ireland, but particularly for the unionist people, of fear, grievance and anger. Can I ask that you genuinely, particularly after the debate we had earlier on, reflect on that and move back towards some vague progress towards reconciliation?
Thank you. I thank the member for a supplementary question. I can advise the member that in everything that I do, I strive to try to do that to represent everyone across Northern Ireland, should that be from condemnation of acts of violence right through to trying to build a better and brighter future for everyone across Northern Ireland. That is something I genuinely believe in. It's something that I am firmly committed to. I think when people look back and reflect upon my time as Deputy First Minister, from the very first speech that I made, I said and indicated very strongly that I wanted to be a Deputy First Minister that worked with everyone and worked for everyone. And I believe that I have demonstrated that, not just in terms of the types of events that I have attended and the wide range of events, but of course in terms of that generosity of spirit I think that we all need to have. I do believe that the Irish Government, the Taoiseach and others understand completely the importance of the 11th of November. As I indicated, I recognise this is a huge personal day for the incoming President. I have sought to have a personal call with her in recognition of that very significant personal achievement and what she is about to embark on. I would also advise the member that when you look back, there's been a huge amount of engagement, not just with the Taoiseach, with Simon Harris, with the Irish Government, in terms of our North-South engagement, our British-Irish Council engagement. We've had a number of very, very constructive discussions, and I believe in building constructive relationships. And much of what we do and what we're trying to drive forward to improve people's lives is based on those constructive relationships as well.
I call Orlia Flynn.
Gurmiagat, Alaskan Collier, and I just want to follow on from Matthew's line of questioning, and I'm pleased to hear the Deputy First Minister speak about the spirit of representing everyone, which is extremely important, and she will, I'm sure, understand that tomorrow is going to be a hugely significant day for many, many people across the north, right across the island, and in fact right across the world in terms of the Irish diaspora. And in that context, would she accept that she does have some responsibility in terms of attending tomorrow's event, in terms of that spirit of representing everyone and setting out that symbol of representing everyone right across our communities?
Minister.
Thank you. Look, I think that there's a real appetite with some to make this into a political football, to try to use it to indicate some sort of political division or to score political points, and that's not what this is. I got an invitation to this event on Thursday morning. I have commitments on a very important issue, you know, not least like my grandfather, my great-grandfather and so many people within my own family served in the wars, were severely injured in the wars. And I have committed to do the service here and to pay my respects and in remembrance on that day, but also that commitment to go over to Windsor Castle and to pay tribute to the veterans of the victim in Japan, the victory in Japan, 80th anniversary, but the Asia Pacific theatre of war of World War II. And again, it's an opportunity not only for us to pay our respects for what they did, an incredible generation doing incredible things, but also the fact that, you know, it recognises that so many people, mainly of course young men, came from this place, this little small place, and they went right across the globe, risking their lives, giving their lives, getting injured in those frightening and dangerous circumstances to fight for peace and democracy for all of us. And I think the very least that I can do is to go along and to pay my respects and tribute to them.
Órlaithí Flynn for supplement.
And I thank the Minister for her response, and I would be hopeful then that she would be sending maybe someone in her place if she cannot make it herself. But regrettably, I think what a lot of people will hear within that answer from right across our communities, that it's going to be a sense of your refusal to attend is not fulfilling your duties, your cross-community duties, to, as you said, in the spirit of respect, in the spirit of reconciliation, how we try and represent everyone right across our society. And sadly, I think that's what many people will hear within your answer, and it's in stark contrast to the leadership that has been shown by our First Minister for all in terms of yesterday's event. It's an extremely stark contrast.
It was quite a lengthy statement, but look, I'm not going to rise to political point
Excuse
scoring.
me, can you take your seat? I chair here, okay? So don't tell me how to chair, okay? If you don't like a decision, go to the Speaker's office, okay? Continue.
So sorry, I was interrupted. As I was indicating, like, I think that is a very unfair characterisation of this. I would also say to you that I am not going to get involved with you on such a serious matter in what is an attempt at political point score. I have gone to events right throughout Northern Ireland. I have gone to events on my own, like for example to Normandy, to pay tribute, despite the fact that there were 70,000 soldiers in from what is now the Republic of Ireland that served there. And I paid tribute to those soldiers as well. And likewise, there are events that Michelle, as First Minister, attends on her own. There are things that we have done together. And I think a generosity of approach is to recognise that both of us have been out there talking to people from right across Northern Ireland. And I will always do my part, but I would also ask you to respect the fact that the 11th of November is an important day, not just for my community, but recognise that it is a hugely important day within my community with so many people who have served. And in this case that I am unable to attend because of an invitation from His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen to attend to pay tribute to those veterans. But of course there will be opportunities in the future to engage with the new President of Ireland and indeed to engage in building relationships right across East, West, North, South.
Thank you, Minister. I call David Brooks.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Deputy First Minister for her answer so far. The Deputy First Minister will be aware that the Leader of the Opposition has written to the Head of the Civil Service concerning matters relating to the visit of the Education Minister to Israel. Can the Deputy First Minister indicate what role the Head of the Civil Service has in that regard?
Minister.
Thank you. I thank the member for this important question. I think it's really unfortunate that there have been some comments in this place up until this point in relation to this matter. I think we need to be very careful about the limitations of the role of the Head of the Civil Service. She herself has confirmed that she is only engaged in a fact-finding matter because she does not have a role in relation to the investigations or inquiries in relation to this. It is always important that a minister within the department is recognised as the minister who takes those decisions within their own department. As you said, the Leader of the Opposition has written to the Head of the Civil Service seeking certain information and an assessment on whether the NICS Code of Ethics have been breached. I am very clear that while the Head of the Civil Service may wish to provide him factual information, as she would to anyone who would correspond with her, she is not accountable to the Leader of the Opposition, and she is not empowered to sit in judgment of a democratically elected Minister of Education.
I might make a declaration, having been on the trip to Israel. The Deputy First Minister clarified for the Leader of the Opposition then that the accountability for ministers lies in this House and not with himself trying to politicise civil servants.
Thank you. As indicated, I feel it was inappropriate for the Head of the Civil Service to have been brought into this matter by others around this place. And indeed, I have no doubt that the Head of the Civil Service would not want to put herself into the middle of what is essentially a political argument at the moment. She will have professional role. She does have a formal professional role within her role as Head of the Civil Service. And indeed, that does not, of course, it absolutely does not include any investigation into the Minister's or Minister's decisions.
Call Mr William Irwin.
Thank you, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. The Deputy First Minister will agree with me that the disruption to veterinary medicine must be addressed before the grace period ends in January 2026. Can the Deputy First Minister outline what engagement she has had with the UK Government on this very important issue?
Okay, thank you. I thank the member for his question. I know that he has been a champion for our farming industry for so many years within this place, and of course this is an important issue not just for the farming community but of course for pet owners as well. I know that many people are now getting notifications indicating that they can no longer from January 26 buy and purchase their pet medications online from GP suppliers. This is an issue that the UK Government must address urgently. We've got an indication from the UK Government that they're moving in a direction of an agreement with the EU, particularly in relation to SPS. Therefore, that would render any, in my view, apprehensions or concerns from the European Union that prevented a resolution on veterinary medicines from going ahead removed. So therefore, I would ask the UK Government, as I have done in every single engagement, as the First Minister knows, when we're engaging, should it be with Nick Thomas-Symonds, with the Prime Minister, with our Secretary of State, I have raised this outstanding issue on veterinary medicines at every single opportunity. The clock is ticking. This issue needs to be resolved. It's going to add significant cost to pet owners in relation to essential medicines for their animals. It is going to add lots of cost in terms of to our farming community and to vets. So that we do need to get this issue resolved. I'm calling on the UK Government to act urgently now, to get this matter resolved immediately and to prevent this grace period from ending and this crisis continuing into 2026.
Call William Irwin for supplementary.
Can I thank the Minister for her response and for her efforts in this matter? The Deputy First Minister will be aware that there's a large number of vaccines used by the intensive sectors that are part of these medicines, and she would agree with me that it would be serious if they're not available.
Minister. Okay, thank you. I think it's really important because while we oppose the Windsor Framework indicated that there would be agreements in terms of limited or no diversion of trade. What we're seeing within veterinary medicines is an entire diverting of trade to other markets and away from the GB market. That needs to be addressed. But also, secondly, while others might say, look, we've got this down to just 5% or 10% of medicines, if you are a dog owner or you've got a companion animal that is reliant on those drugs within that 5 to 10%, that is everything to you, and the cost is very, very significant. We know that across Northern Ireland, so many people, particularly older people and others, rely on their companion animals to tackle loneliness as a best friend, as somebody that they love and care about very deeply, but they don't have a lot of money to be able to put towards excessive costs. So this does need to be addressed.
Time's up, Deputy First Minister. No points of order during question time. Take your seat. We need to move on to questions to the Minister for Justice. We'll start with a list of questions. Question number 5 has been withdrawn. I call Pam Cameron.